My sick girlfriend coughed in my immune-compromised niece's face because the idea of germs was ridiculous, but now a judge will cough on her. My girlfriend Jessica and I have been together for 2 years. She's a jokester, but up until now the pranks had been pretty mild compared to what she did now. I mean, they were silly pranks that didn't bother anyone. She even joked with herself. The situation involves my sister Kate and her 18-month-old daughter Claudia. Claudia was born with a heart condition that required surgery when she was 6 months old. Her immune system is still developing, and Kate has to be extremely careful about exposure to germs. Even a simple cold could send her to the hospital. Kate lives about 3 hours away, so we don't visit often. When we do, Kate has ground rules. Wash your hands, don't visit if you're sick, and keep the house clean. Jessica has always complained about these rules, saying Kate is dramatic and overprotective. 2 weeks ago, Jessica started feeling sick with what felt like the flu. She was coughing, had body aches, and a low-grade fever. I told her to cancel our visit to Kate's house that weekend, but Jessica insisted she was getting better and didn't want to disappoint anyone. The day before we were due to leave, she seemed much better. Her fever was gone and she said the cough was just persistent. She promised she would wear a mask around Claudia, one of my sister's rules, and keep her distance. I believed her because I wanted to see my niece, and Kate said she was fine if she wasn't already having symptoms. When we arrived Saturday morning, Jessica went straight to Claudia's playpen in the living room. Kate stepped in and reminded her to wear a mask and keep her distance. Jessica nodded and put it on, but then she did what brings me here. Jessica picked Claudia up without asking. Kate told her to put her down because she was still coughing occasionally. Jessica took off her mask, held Claudia close to her face, and coughed directly on her. Then she started laughing and said it was just a joke to show everyone was being too paranoid about germs. She claimed she had been pretending to be sick the whole time to see how Kate would react. Kate snatched Claudia from her arms and told us to leave immediately. She was shaking and checking Claudia's breathing. I tried to apologize and explained that I had no idea Jessica was planning this, but Kate wouldn't listen. She told us to leave before she called the police. On the ride home, Jessica went on and on about how everyone was overreacting. She said babies are always exposed to germs and that Kate was creating a sterile bubble that would actually harm Claudia's development. I didn't say much because I was driving and didn't want to get into an accident if I got too angry. On Sunday night, Kate called me, crying. Claudia had developed a cough and was having trouble breathing. She was taken to the emergency room. The doctors admitted her because her oxygen levels were dropping. Claudia spent 50 days in the hospital on oxygen. The doctor said she had developed a respiratory infection that could have been much worse given her medical history. Kate blamed Jessica for deliberately outing Claudia as a joke. Jessica maintains she wasn't really sick and that Claudia probably caught it from someone else. She says Kate is overreacting and only wants to blame her. I've been staying at a friend's house since Sunday because Jessica and I won't stop fighting. She wants me to support her side of the story when I talk to my family. She says if I truly love her, I should stand by her against those trying to tear us apart. Kate won't speak to me. My parents are furious and want Jessica excluded from family events. Jessica's parents called mine to complain that their daughter is being used as a scapegoat for something that wasn't her fault. Jessica has been texting me all week, saying she's sorry Claudia got sick, but that it wasn't her fault. She says she'll never joke around with Claudia again if it makes everyone feel better. She also says she's willing to apologize to Kate if it makes things right. But I can't let this go. It's not just a joke. Claudia is home recovering now, which gives me some relief. But deep down, I don't want to forgive Jessica, and I think this has been the end of our relationship. I can't get it out of my head that things could have been worse. I don't know why she did it when her jokes weren't heavy at all before. Update 1. I thought I should give an update because I was asked to share what happened. After my original post, I responded to one of Jessica's messages. I told her that regardless of her intentions, what she did put Claudia at risk and that our relationship couldn't continue. Jessica said she would apologize to Kate so that would fix the problems between us. I felt there was no solution, but she called Kate anyway. Instead of apologizing, Jessica spent 20 minutes explaining why Kate's rules were excessive and how keeping Claudia isolated from common germs was actually harmful. She said she'd done research on childhood development and that exposure to common illnesses helps build immunity. Kate hung up. The next day, Jessica's mother called Kate directly. She said Jessica was devastated and had been crying for days about being treated like a criminal. This conversation revealed something I didn't know. Jessica's mother said Jessica had been checking social media posts from Kate's friends, who are also young mothers. I had been reading about her approaches to protecting her children from illness and thought Kate was being influenced by online parenting groups that promote excessive caution. Kate told me about that call, and we both concluded that Jessica had been very concerned about our family's medical situation, which I knew of. She had been researching Claudia's condition and forming opinions about how Kate should handle it. I decided to review Jessica's browsing history on our shared laptop. What I found disturbed me. She had been searching for information about children with immunocompromised conditions. She had visited forums where parents discuss how to protect medically fragile children. Some of her search terms included things like parents overprotectors, sick children, and building immunity in babies. When I confronted Jessica with these searches, she said she was just trying to understand the situation better. She said if she could prove that being mildly ill wasn't dangerous, it would help Kate relax and enjoy family visits more. I asked her point blank if she had planned everything. She admitted that she had thought about doing something to show that Kate's worries were excessive, but said she didn't mean to hurt anyone. She had deliberately planned to expose Claudia to whatever she had to prove a point about parenting. I told Jessica that she needed to give me and my family space because what she did was too much for me to forgive her. I also told her that I would be staying at a friend's place until I could get another place and pick up the rest of my things. Jessica still writes and apologizes, but she also accuses me of making this much bigger than it is. I haven't responded beyond telling her not to bother my family anymore. My parents want to meet with me this weekend to discuss the situation. Kate told me that even if Jessica wasn't the direct cause of Claudia's illness, the fact that she was willing to put herself on the line for a joke tells her everything she needs to know about Jessica's character. And I think she's not wrong, which is why I'm letting Jessica go. Update 2. I met with my parents the weekend after my last post. When Kate took Claudia to the ER, she mentioned the incident with Jessica. The hospital noted it in Claudia's file and reported it to Child Protective Services as a possible case of intentional exposure to a disease. A social worker contacted Kate the following week to interview the family and determine if Claudia was at risk of future harm. Kate had to explain the entire situation and present medical records that demonstrated Claudia's vulnerability. The social worker told Kate that deliberately coughing on a medically fragile child, even as a joke, constitutes child endangerment under state law. She told her that although they wouldn't pursue charges at that time, the incident would be noted in their files. Jessica somehow found out about this report, which recorded her attack. Kate may have written to her, I don't know. She then wrote to me again because she was enraged with Kate for reporting the incident at the hospital. She said Kate just wanted to see her life ruined. She accused Kate of making her look like a monster, although my response is that her own actions made her look like one. My group of friends and people is somewhat small, so everyone knows everyone. For example, the sister of the friend I'm staying with went out with him, Jessica's ex-boyfriend. And although I only knew him from seeing him around, I wasn't in a relationship with him. But I still reached out. I don't think it was just a quote-unquote mistake. There was an incident that led to their breakup involving Derek's ex-boyfriend's grandmother, who was recovering from a stroke and having trouble walking. Jessica thought it would be funny to rearrange the living room furniture to see if Grandma would notice. Grandma fell and fractured her ribs because she couldn't find her way around the new arrangement. Jessica excused herself as saying it was no big deal and that something like this might help her exercise her memory. After talking to Derek, I texted Jessica, telling her everything I'd learned from her. Jessica's response was to accuse me of going behind her back and trying to make her look meaner than she was just because I was paranoid like my sister.
She also tried to make it seem like Derek was probably lying or exaggerating because he was bitter about the breakup. She called me toxic and a man chaser because I was trying to dig into her past to make her look bad. Everything she said seemed increasingly sickening to me because there wasn't a shred of remorse in what she said. To her, everything I had done wasn't that bad and everyone was exaggerating. That's why I told her not to contact my family anymore and that I would pick up my things soon to officially end our relationship. The relationship was already over, but I didn't want any more contact with her of any kind. I think I'll store things somewhere until I can find something more permanent. But if you thought Jessica was done with me, you'd be wrong, because that same afternoon, she showed up at my friend's apartment. She stood outside the door for over an hour, begging me to reconsider. I wasn't that upset, so my friend had to threaten to call the police because she wouldn't leave until I showed up. Since then, she's been calling and texting both me and my family members. Do you want to know if there's anything I can do to fix the situation? My parents already blocked her number. Kate refuses to have any dealings with her. I haven't been able to block her yet because I still have to coordinate with her to get my things, which I think will be difficult because she's still holding out hope for this relationship. My friend has offered to do it for me, but I don't want to put him in that situation either. Update 3. I'm writing this update from my new apartment. I moved out of my friend's place last month. There's a lot to tell you, but first I was able to get my things back without too much trouble. My friend and I went one day when I expected her to be gone, and luckily, the key worked. We were able to get my things out without her knowing. After that, I was finally able to block her, although she didn't take it well when she arrived at the apartment and found my things missing. She called my work twice, asking to speak with me, but no one put the call through because they knew what was happening. The worst part was what she started doing to my family. She created a fake social media account and began commenting on Kate's posts about Claudia's development. She would leave horrible comments just to attack my sister. Kate didn't realize those comments were coming from Jessica until she said something only she could say, and that's when we connected. It wasn't just any person, it was my ex-girlfriend. Jessica also started calling my parents' house and hanging up when they answered. This went on for weeks until my dad changed the phone number. The harassment isn't as severe against me anymore, but I've been trying to get my parents or my sister to file a complaint against her. We've even been talking about filing an assault complaint against Jessica for what she did to my niece. I haven't been able to convince them yet, but it's a strong possibility. I think it's the only way to get her to stop bothering us, and it's also the only way for Kate, at least, to get a restraining order against her. I know why my ex is doing all this. It looks really bad for her what she did, and I know our group of friends hates her for this. But it would be a lot easier for her to disappear quietly and move on with her life. I know Kate has bigger concerns now, her daughter's health, than taking legal action, but I'm willing to help her, as are my parents. To stop this, I feel guilty because she was my girlfriend, and I brought her into the family, so I want to do this for her. Claudia, she was fine. Now her doctors say she's fully recovered from the infection and that her immune system is developing normally.
Regularly again, though she says she'll never be able to trust my judgment about partners the same way. My parents have been supportive, but haven't asked many questions about Jessica or why the relationship ended. I think they're relieved it's over and don't want to say anything more on the subject. I've been thinking about Derek's story and wondering how many other people Jessica has hurt. I hope he gets help, but I'm glad it's no longer my responsibility. The most important thing is that Claudia is safe and healthy. Kate invited me to Claudia's second birthday party next month, which feels like a step toward rebuilding the trust I lost when I brought Jessica into their lives. Update 4. I'm writing this update because even though I've ended my relationship, I'm still discovering things about Jessica that are scary and upsetting, things that I wouldn't have known about before we started the relationship. I got a call from Derek, Jessica's ex-boyfriend. He told me that a mutual friend of ours had told him things that had happened with Jessica before they were together. Derek knew of 2 men Jessica had dated before him. All 3 relationships followed the same pattern.
Jessica's prank started small and harmless, but all the relationships ended when she did something as bad as what happened to my niece. In each case, she targeted people or things her boyfriends valued deeply. With Derek, it was her grandmother. With the previous boyfriend, she had repeatedly pranked Derek's elderly dog, including hiding his medicine and switching his food to other brands. With the first boyfriend, she pranked his younger brother who had autism, messing up his room and hiding his comfort items. Derek said all three had tried to talk to Jessica about her behavior, but she always convinced them that the victims of their pranks were overreacting and that their boyfriends were choosing others over her. Each relationship ended when Jessica crossed a line with someone vulnerable, and each time she claimed she was unfairly blamed for accidents or misunderstandings. Derek also told me something that explained Jessica's reaction to the Child Protective Services investigation. Her parents had been contacted by Child Protective Services when Jessica was in middle school. She was babysitting her cousin and locked him in a closet as punishment for not obeying her. Her parents found him hours later severely dehydrated. Jessica's parents convinced Child Protective Services that it had been a misunderstanding and that Jessica was just an inexperienced babysitter who had made a bad decision. But Derek said that Jessica had always resented the investigation and was therefore now afraid of him. As I mentioned earlier, Child Protective Services didn't do much with Jessica, but it still fueled her fury and, consequently, her level of harassment. After learning this information, I decided to contact Kate and tell her everything Derek had shared with me. Kate was completely shocked and horrified by her behavior. Thanks to this, I convinced her to press charges and also get a restraining order. I don't think the latter is really necessary because at least Jessica has stopped, and while this might be a way to not upset the bear, I think filing a complaint might help other people. I don't think my ex's behavior will stop just because he stopped bothering us. Surely he could do something similar to other people in the future. So we're in contact with a lawyer who's handling the case along with depositions from my parents and me. We're going to file an assault lawsuit, and he's asking for a restraining order for Kate and Claudia against Jessica. Claudia is now a little over 2 years old, her immune system has strengthened significantly, and Kate is feeling more comfortable with normal social activities. My niece started attending a small daycare program last month, which has been positive for both of us. Kate and I have rebuilt our relationship, though she sometimes mentions that next time I should have my girlfriend get a psychological evaluation. She doesn't blame me for what happened, but she jokes that we need to be cautious next time because the world is full of people with serious mental health issues. I haven't heard directly from Jessica in a while. My friend, with whom I had moved in, told me that someone saw her with a new boyfriend at a restaurant downtown, but I don't know the details. That's why we're taking legal action, because if she did it with boyfriends, I could also do something similar with a fifth. And so far, nothing serious has happened, nothing to regret. But I also don't want to sit idly by until one day I discover that it has, and blame myself for it. Claudia's health crisis could have been much worse if the doctors hadn't acted quickly. I'm grateful that she's made a full recovery, but I'm also aware that Jessica's prank could have had permanent consequences. I don't think Jessica will change because she doesn't believe what she does is wrong. She thinks everything she's done to her boyfriends was justified in some way, and I think it's time someone put a stop to it. Update 5. I hope this is my final update because that would mean Jessica hasn't done anything wrong anymore. It's also possible that I'll never find out because I won't be following her life anymore. But I hope the legal consequences have created enough motivation for her, or at least her parents, to do something to restrain her. Now I move on to what happened. My sister's lawyer filed an assault complaint, and a police report was also filed. The complaint, like what happened at the hospital, didn't have many consequences, but it was important to have it on record. It also wasn't easy to prove that what she did was what led to my niece getting sick. It may have been a coincidence, but it's still reckless. In addition, a restraining order was filed to prevent her from contacting Kate or my niece. This caused Jessica to start harassing my parents and me, which I didn't mind, as long as it wasn't with Kate.
Anyway, the lawyer filed a cease and desist order, which could lead to a restraining order for my parents and me, and then more legal issues in the lawsuit. That made her stop immediately. The lawsuit moved forward for a while with some mediations, which Jessica declined. The reason is that, in addition to financial compensation, which I'll discuss later, we also wanted her to sign a commitment to seek some kind of professional help for her problems. That was the most important thing for us. Financial compensation had no real value to Kate. It was just a form of punishment. But since Mike Hawks didn't want to accept that she had done anything wrong, we had to go to court. There, not only did a judge order her to pay financial compensation, the amount of which is irrelevant, but he also required her to seek professional help and notify the court of her sessions. If she didn't do so, she would receive further financial penalties, fines of $1,000 if she didn't attend regularly. And I think her parents will get her to comply because they accompanied her to the hearings with the judge and also apologized to Kate for their daughter's behavior. The only thing that matters to us is that she receives some treatment so that she doesn't do something similar to us or anyone else again. Speaking of which, her new boyfriend dumped her. Derek, her ex, was the one who contacted him in the middle of the lawsuit because he assumed Jessica wasn't telling him the whole story. If he had known, he would have run away as soon as he realized what was going on. And he was right, because he didn't know anything about the lawsuit. Unsurprisingly, he was at the stage where the pranks were completely harmless, like hiding a sock or something like that. He was very grateful to Derek because he saved him from something worse. He even thought he might finally be the boyfriend whose luck ran out and that what she did could be final. I think my story had a happy ending, but it was just luck. She could have caused something very bad to any of her 5 boyfriends. Let's hope that's not what happens in the future.